G'day everybody, it's another build for me. I have a Cantina collection of figures, and the Cantina is getting moved from where it was, and since Hasbro hasn't made the middle bit, I decided to make the bar part of it if I'm going to go to the effort of moving the Cantina. So here's everybody where they are. Took some photos of them before we started to move, but it's going to get moved up here into a more prominent place. I thought if it's going to be more prominent, then I should go to the effort. So I got some plans off the internet and one of the pictures of what the bar thing is, and away we went. This is getting built mostly out of either cardboard or foam board, with the foam in the middle and the cardboard either side. So to start with, I had to just work out the measurements of the bar based on the toys, and then it's cutting. Always do a series of cuts rather than one big cut, so you don't cut your foam and cause issues for yourself. If you do it in small cuts and gradually work your way down, it tends to go straighter and not on angles, and you don't have issues. Then it was marking out based on the existing toy bar top, just how far back the cardboard section needed to be, and freestyling the radius of the curve there for what it is. When you're going to put the cardboard when you're trying to shape cardboard, if you just bend the cardboard, it tends to bend in a 90-degree straight line, and if you try and make a curve out of it, it doesn't like to curve very well if you just bend the board. So what I've done here is mark the spot where the curve starts and then cut a series of grooves with the knife. So they're not right through the board, they're just guide grooves, and when you cut a bunch of grooves across the back, then when you bend the board, you can't see the grooves from the front, but the curve is very even and more natural looking. So then it was mark the same thing after the straight bit across the front, and then cut some more grooves, and that way the cardboard will follow the nice curve radius and bend really well, and I'll have a nice neat curve like it's on the plastic toys. Cut it to length, and then cut a series of stabilizers in the back of it and up the middle of it. That means that when I glue it together, it won't have a curve in it. It'll stay quite square and rigid. I super glued on. I find super glue very difficult to do with cardboard. It doesn't always want to stick. The cardboard tends to suck in. The best way that I've found to try and get it to work is you actually glue the board, put some glue on the board on the ends that you're going to glue together first, and let it dry, and then once it's dry, put some more super glue on it and then try to glue it. And I find that it doesn't. That way the end of the board is sealed up, doesn't suck in as much, and you tend to get a better adhesion. But throughout the course of this particular build, I found that the super glue was a bit hit and miss with the cardboardy components. Worked all right on the foamy bits, worked all right on the things that were static, sitting down, pushing down, not sideways, but it was problematic for this part of the build. Then it was shape up the edges of the foam board while I was letting everything else dry. So it's just sandpaper, sand the top round, sand the ends smoother, and then put the roundy bevel on the edge of the thing, make it look like the plastic toy one, the official one. I don't know whether they ever made the bar for real, but it didn't come to Australia if they did, so we only got the bar sections with the figures that they came with when they released the Cantina patrons. So I managed to get a lot of them, but I didn't ever see, when they released he didn't have one with him. The toy has a line along it that's painted in. I just used a pencil to push a groove in, and it looked equivalent to what the toy one is. This is just cutting out the section that is white on the bar. The white bit is lower. The cream bit on the edge is raised. So I just decided to cut out a bit. Tip here, if you're ever breaking off a blade with the snap-off blades, wrap the blade that's come off in a bit of masking tape before you throw it in the bin. That way nobody gets stabbed, including the garbage man. So after I cut the edges off, I used the paper, pulled the paper face off and gouged the foam out a little bit, and then I sanded it flat. It was mostly flat. I did put some filler in it to try and make it a little bit flatter, but by the time that I realised that it was not going to be seen that much, I decided not to spend a lot of time mucking around with it, and I just sanded it relatively smooth. Found these. This is a spool of cotton that I chopped in half, because on the plans there was a pic. It looked like there was some sort of air conditioning or refrigeration or a vent or something. So I marked the length of them, then cut a 45 bevel with the blade out of the Stanley knife. Just tried to get it right down to a nice straight bevel, and then glue them in place. I couldn't find them in the picture, the production shots, but they were on the plan. So I thought they looked pretty spacey, so I put them in because I reckoned it was a nice greebly. As I said, this has all been glued and left to dry, and the super glue did not take. So after putting the super glue on liberally and letting it dry, when I finally glued the top together, it didn't work. These are pipettes, paint pipettes that you use for squeezing things, but I decided to make the little canisters on the end of the bar out of them. The original canisters, one of them got used to make IG-88's head for The Empire Strikes Back. They recycled it and it became IG-88, but I didn't feel like casting an IG-88 bust in order to make the 3 3/4 inch scale pots on the end of the bar. I just decided to make lookalikes. So here's me doing a dance, singing a song, pushing down on this for more than 30 seconds, and it didn't take. So the super glue was non-responsive in this particular instance, and so I got jack of it and said, blow it, I've got liquid nails. So liquid nail it up, put it on fairly liberally on the cross members where it won't squeeze out. Clean your nozzle, Pete. And then made sure I put a bead around the top edge, but I cleaned the bead off with a really straight bit of cardboard once it's squeezed out, because you don't want it sticking out, and it's very difficult to clean off nicely even with a blade when it's dry. So I just pushed it on, grabbed a bit of cardboard once it had squeezed out. I don't mind it squeezing out because it means you got enough on there, but then I just really carefully took it back to where you can't see any of it squeezed out. Then it was sorry about the glue bottle that's now in the frame for the next little bit. I cut the pipette IG-88 lookalikes to length, and then off camera I sprayed everything silver, so you don't see the spraying bit, but we all know how to spray a spray can, and if you don't, have a look at another video. So then it was, I didn't end up using all the pieces that I'd made because I made the little pipette canisters. Some of it didn't get used, but that's alright, they'll be there for somewhere else. In the picture there's lots and lots of piping, so the idea, this is 3mm craft wire, and it's just trial and error. So plug it in at one end, pick it up, put a 90-degree bend on it, make it go around some of the pots. I wasn't going to drill holes in lots and lots of things. I just need to give the impression that the pipes are coming from somewhere and going to somewhere. So there's lots of just bending and trial and error and making sure everything fits and trying to get the bits that go straight to look straight, and trying to get the bits that are bend to be the same radius all the way around and not so chunky. But again, this is not the focus of the whole diorama. It's just to fill in the gap in the middle of that bar. I still want the figures to be the be all and end all of it all. So once I'd got this first one where I thought it would go, it was back to checking out the picture and seeing there's two kinds of pipes in the actual proper set. There's silver ones and copper ones. So I also got some copper wire, craft wire, but I wasn't going to do that until after things were painted, because I didn't want to get any paint on it because it's already coppery. So no use giving myself more work. Then I filled the containers with the liquid nails so that all of those pipings would stay together and stay in place, and left it to dry overnight, and came back the next day and sprayed them all silver, which I haven't bothered to show you the silver spraying, as you can no doubt see. Here are some photographs that I took after I'd done it, just so that you, in the interest of trying to make you all still see what was going on. Then it was paint. I painted, this paint has some grit in it that my son and I used to make it a sandy texture thing, so I had to put it on very thin to keep brushing out the textured parts. As a result, it required more than one coat to really get the coverage, and that's okay. The total time that it took to build this build from go to woe, according to all the video that I had, was about 2 hours and I think 14 minutes. So it was over about 3 days, but that's because I had to go to work, and I was letting glues dry at different times and paints dry and things like that. So this was a really probably what you would consider a one-day build if I'd sat down and done it and force-dried things. But yeah, it wasn't a big long build. I jumped in too much and did the white too quickly on this bit, and as a result I got white where I didn't want it, and you can see the edge of the bar there. When I tried to rub it off, it just smudged. So I came back. This is the second coat of white that I'm doing, and I after everything had dried, which is what you do, don't paint things when you don't need to paint them. Let things dry when they should, or you can be like me and just get all excited and go bull at a gate, but you're only going to have to do it twice anyway, so your call. This is my second coat of white to make it cover, and then I came back and had to recut in all of the edges where the creamy part goes, because I really wanted that white to go in the grooves and fill in any of the foamy bits on the bar top. So I was quite liberal with splashing it around, and then came back and fixed the creamy sandy colour up. I had thought about doing some of the staining likes on the outside of the Hasbro manufactured pieces, but the inside of those doesn't have it. It's cream and plain, and the bartender will be in the road. So I decided, again, given that this isn't the focus of the bar, it's just where the bartender's standing, to give it the idea that it's the bar, that I would just make it a basic paint job and not go over the top. Anyway, so still more painting and getting it all to cover and be nice. You could spend more time if you wanted to putting things in, maybe putting lights on it, sticking some clear things on the bar like it has, but I just wanted to give the general impression of the bar top and the distillery sort of section. So once everything was dry, it was then position everything and glue it into place, and put all the silver bits on. Super glue worked fine in this particular instance. The wires glued into the foam and the thing glued onto the foam, and it was all really easy to do. And then once I'd got all of the chromey bits in place, I then got the copper wire and bent the copper wire and finished it off. So this is just the copper wiry bit getting bent. I don't have 3D printers. I'm sure if you could, there's probably a STL file out there if somebody wants to make their own bar. I tend to be fairly low-key and fairly traditional with my scratch building, and it's just spools of things and pieces of dowel and little rubber knobs that I find on left over from chair legs and all of that sort of stuff, and everything goes into different bits boxes. The copper wire was just in the picture. The copper wires are going different places than the chromey wires are, so the idea was that some things are being used for maybe hot water and some for cold. And then it was just bend them, put them into place, do it until I thought there was enough on there to make it look like it was right, and that's the finished product. So everybody migrated up. There's some pictures coming of the way that it looked when it was finished. I'm actually pretty chuffed with the way that the photographs work. Some of them look really, really. Everybody's looking in the right direction and everything. So there you go. That's the relocated bar with everybody back in place. And just a couple of glamour shots. I hope if you've got figures and things that you feel inspired enough to give it a crack, I hope you've enjoyed watching the bits and pieces that I've done. I'm in the process of a couple of builds at the moment, so there'll be some more videos up at some stage during the piece. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have fun. G'day to everybody, Paul and the boys. I hope you're enjoying lockdown, and this might give you a bit of a change to the tedium. And everybody stay healthy and enjoy your modelling and your hobbying and your collecting and your YouTube watching. And thanks for spending some time with me.